Now joining us live on the broadcast is Giorgio Cafiero, who is a CEO, Gulf State Analytics and Professor, Georgetown University. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast, Professor. Now, of course, perhaps the biggest admission here by Israeli military is that it could not intercept the missiles. This has, of course, raised concerns over the efficacy of the Iron Dome. What's your assessment of this?
Well, thank you. Good to be on your network. I think we need to see this development in a larger regional context. Obviously, in recent months, Iran and the so-called axis of resistance led by the Islamic Republic has been dealt some very severe blows, and Israel is feeling increasingly confident about its position in the Middle East vis-a-vis this axis of resistance. But I think it's quite clear that at this point, the Houthis have established themselves as the actor that's kind of in the front seat of the Iran-led axis of resistance. And Israel, for all of its military operations in Yemen, against the backdrop of Washington and London's military operations in Yemen, it's not been able to deter the Houthis. And I think Israel is going to face a very serious challenge moving into 2025 when it comes to the threat that the Houthis are able to represent toward Israel. And I think without some sort of a diplomatic solution to the regional crises, bringing us really to a ceasefire in Gaza, the Houthis are going to continue undermining Israel's sense of security and confidence.
Right. In fact, I was just going to come to this. Hamas and two other Palestinian militant groups have said that a Gaza ceasefire deal with Israel is closer than ever, of course, provided that Israel does not impose any new conditions. That being said, do you think these incidents are likely to have an impact on the possibility of a ceasefire agreement?
Well, there's no doubt that these Houthi ballistic missile and drone attacks against Israel increase the costs that Israel has to pay for a continuation of its genocidal war on Gaza. That being said, I don't think the Israeli government wants to appear weak, and it doesn't want to have Israel's enemies in the region get the feeling that these types of missile and drone attacks against Israel force Tel Aviv into making concessions to Hamas or any other groups in the axis of resistance. So I'm not sure if the Houthi attacks will necessarily be a game changer, at least anytime soon, when it comes to Israel's calculations about a Gaza ceasefire. But there's certainly a factor in play that we can't ignore.
Sir, absolutely. But just to get better understanding of this, of course, as you mentioned, this Houthi attack, do you think this represents any sort of an escalation in West Asia, which already is a volatile region at the moment? We're seeing conflicts on various fronts. Do you think this would perhaps push Israel to reassess its strategy? You said that Israel would not want to appear weaker, and Israel has always been adamant on the fact that it wants the complete annihilation of Hamas. That being said, do you think this would perhaps prove to be a call for Israel to take a step back and perhaps reassess its strategy?
I don't think that this latest Houthi attack will necessarily prompt the Israeli leadership to step back and reassess its strategies. We, of course, need to keep in mind that soon after the events of October 7th, 2023, and the subsequent Israeli war on Gaza, the Houthis have been engaged in hostilities, not only with Israel-linked ships, vessels off Yemen's coast in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, but also these direct confrontations against Israel. So I'm not so sure that today's attack, as significant as it was, will necessarily lead to any fundamental changes in Israel's foreign policy. I could be wrong about that, but I just don't have an easy time imagining that happening.
All right. Professor Cafiero, thank you so much for joining us on WION World is One with your insights and perspective on this.
Thank you.
For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.